Welcome back. Over the weekend, Manhattan Borough President Scott Stringer received 3 newspaper endorsements in his quest to become the Comptroller of New York City. He's running against, guess who? Eliot Spitzer for the Democratic nomination. The endorsements range from the splashy to the more reserved, but all made basically the same point, that Spitzer is unfit for this position. Mr. OB, I assume you agree with that
I'm
assessment.
undecided on this one.
You're undecided. You're undecided.
No, listen, I went after Eliot the first time to try to throw him off the ballot with his petitions. Doesn't belong in office, number one. Number
But
two,
is he qualified? Are you willing to admit he's qualified?
Absolutely not. And
he's
the
not qualified?
Simple reason is this. A, he's got no experience managing the money. And if he's talking about his experience...
Wait. Didn't he take on Wall Street, the sheriff of Wall Street?
Yeah, he knows how to tear down Wall Street, not build it up and make money for our pension holders. That's what he knows to do, is destroy things. He doesn't know how to help a damn thing.
I like that line.
Okay?
You like that line?
Let's put it in the commercial for Stringer.
Let's do it.
So the other part of this is this. Eliot Spitzer used taxpayer dollars. And if the New York Post and the Daily News and the New York Times, and I read the New York Times editorial on Friday night, why the New York Times put this out for a Saturday is beyond me. Should have been on Thursday or Monday and get more play for it. Scott Stringer can't afford any misses. New York Times blew it the day they did it. They got to play it up more, hit him harder, but he used taxpayer dollars. People don't care about hookers and black socks and cheating on your wife at this point for this race. They care about where their money is in the future of New York. And Eliot Spitzer used taxpayer dollars to fly and meet his hookers, and he never paid the state back. He never was prosecuted. He tried to hide from the federal government, passing money off below $10,000 when he transferred it. It's all public record.
Okay.
And this is the guy that you think should be comptroller?
But let me
Absolutely
just ask you a question then. None of those charges have stuck. You look at the polls, and it is not just name recognition. People don't think he's qualified to be governor, not senator, maybe not mayor, but they do think, as Dominic mentioned, that he has the qualifications it takes to be comptroller. Explain
the
that.
Challenge on this,
And these are strange bedfellows.
And the challenge on this is that everyone's talking about the hookers. They're not talking about the state money.
No,
and
people
that's the
don't
problem.
seem to care about the hookers or the black
That's
socks
my
you
point.
mentioned.
They need to say he took money from the taxpayers. They have to understand that, and not about the sexiness of it.
Yeah, and shockingly, there's still time to do that, even though we're less than a month out now. But I agree.
What are we waiting for?
With you.
That's my question.
I agree with you that it is not just Spitzer's name recognition that creates that gap, but it is the lack of Stringer's name recognition. If you look at his overall name recognition and then how many votes he's getting, they're nearly identical. So the more people get to know Stringer and that there's a real option, I really do think he's got a great. By the way, also, he's going to have a real operation. I know Spitzer has a lot of money, but you can't pay for enthusiasm.
But now watching those debates, I'm sorry, Scott Stringer came off as everything was negative about Spitzer. He has not taken the time to tell people why they should vote for him, and I think it's a real problem.
Yeah,
I mean,
but who is going to tell him is every elected official in the city, every newspaper in the city,
but no,
and every union in the city are going to tell everybody why to vote for Stringer while he's telling them why not to vote for Spitzer.
I don't believe that, because look at the Times endorsement. You're absolutely right. That timing wasn't a mistake. They did that on purpose. People are not getting out because they feel like Spitzer's going to win.
The front page of the New York Post endorsement was Eliot in black socks. That's great. That sells papers, and thank you, New York Post, for doing what they did. But as I said, when they had the Charlie Gasparino story about Eliot flying all over the country at taxpayer dollars with his staff and with his security to go meet a hooker, literally, and there's proof of it, go to Washington, D.C. and go to Palm Beach, they should have had a picture on the front of the paper with a state aircraft, with a state seal, taxpayer dollars, and Eliot thrown all over because he's wasting taxpayer dollars. That's the message that resonates on this whole thing.
OB?
Time's up.
Now, no,
Okay,
time's not up. But I've let you go on with your little speech against Mr. Spitzer. But are you willing to admit now that he might actually win this thing?
He
has a double-digit lead in the polls.
I've said from day one that Scott Stringer's dead man walking. I wish it wasn't true.
Is he still dead man walking?
I've also said that he's got a race.
Is he still a dead man
walking? As of
walking?
right now, he's not. He's going to come back from the dead to do it.
Owns that. His campaign owns that. Unfortunately, they have not helped themselves. Every endorsement in the world has not helped.
You guys are bringing me down.
And you're right. It's still early. I
Scott
agree.
Stringer
I mean, there's still a little
should
time,
have
but
gone
the lead
on
is
air the day that Spitzer announced. He didn't do it. He missed an opportunity, and he fell behind. He also should have been raising as much money as he could. even before the CFB said anything about campaign spending, he should have spent his money and done it and gone back and
You can't assume you're
get
going to
more.
win because you've got establishment support, and you can't go into debates the way he has.
The,
I'm
the
sorry.
union endorsements, by the way, paper endorsements are good. Okay, they're terrific for various aspects.
They're going to put people on the street,
but
though.
the union endorsements bring bodies, dollars, phone calls, knocking on
They
doors,
do
and
matter.
dragging them out.
I'm
to
going
vote.
to go in 1 second to a blast from the past in terms of Abner Louima and the race for Brooklyn District Attorney Charles Hines, the incumbent there,
One of your
up against your client. But before I do that, it's amazing what a few weeks can do. Notice we didn't really talk about Christine Quinn, even though we brought it up at the end. But you notice the other name that we glossed over and we didn't really talk about, and he's at the bottom of the polls or close to the bottom now on the Democratic side. Professor, who would that be? The guy that took all the headlines, was the front runner, dominated the news coverage of this race, took all the oxygen out of the room, but now he is a dead man.
Why are you
He
wasting
is a
airtime
dead-
on him?
Who am I referring
Alec
to?
Baldwin.
That's right. Alec Baldwin, I love him. Anthony Weiner, is
Anthony
that right?
Weiner. Notice we didn't
Yes.
talk about
Yeah.
Weiner much either.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is he done? Is it over?
I think he's absolutely done. The second that Anthony Weiner 2.0 scandal came out, everybody said it when he first came out. If anything else comes out, he's dead man. And it came out, and he's a dead man. The polls show it.
Dominic, 20/20 hindsight. You never lose on Monday morning when you're the quarterback. Your question to Weiner, and I remember the exact words. You probably know it better than I do.
Yep.
Was what else is in there?
Yeah.
Something come forward and all that kind of thing.
You knew that.
The next
Yeah.
question that almost should have been asked, knowing what we know now, would have been, Anthony, let me give you a chance to answer this. And maybe let's go off record for a second. Answer the question, and then if you want to go that way, we'll put it on the cameras again. Why don't you come clean with whatever's out there right now and put it out there, and then it'll be buried, and you can decide what to do going forward. If not, it's going to come out on its own in 2 months.
But there's a problem with
that would've
that.
been good advice.
But there's a problem with that. You don't know what's going to come out.
That's my-
you don't,
no.
You
Yeah,
don't want to put everything on the table.
Yeah.
You don't know which
That's the
one
thing
is
is,
going to
look,
come
I
out.
mean, that's good advice, but he actually knew how bad it was for him, and he was taking the risk that he wasn't going to get found out. He just lied,
Every
lied, and
reporter-
lied, and that's why people
But
won't
every
vote for him.
reporter is asking themselves, why didn't I dig deeper? Because you were trying to hit him hard, and you're like, I can't hit that. I mean, you hit hard, you got a great answer. But the follow-up on that was like, God,
Well,
every
he wasn't
reporter
gonna
thought
divulge
that.
anything
Every
because
reporter
he
thought
couldn't
that.
tell the
Because
truth.
I think you're the one that got closest to it with anybody as far as those numbers.
I really feel bad for him. He's someone I've known for 20 years.
I feel bad for his wife.
And
his
I
wife
feel
is the one
bad
I
for
feel
his
worse
wife
for.
as well.
Because his career was over and hers is going up.
Let's move on. Another endorsement you may remember, as I just mentioned, the Abner Louima case, which attracted national attention in the late 90s. Abner Louima, a Haitian-American man, was brutally assaulted while in custody at a Brooklyn police station. An officer involved in the attack was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Now, Mr. Louima has recently made an endorsement in the Brooklyn District Attorney's race. He has decided to endorse Ken Thompson, who is up against the incumbent Charles Hines. Now, Mr. Hines, I know Mr. Thompson is your client, but Mr. Hines is a legendary district attorney.
He is.
Are you guys going to be able to pull this off? You really believe that?
Look, Charles Hines has been surviving in that job for several elections now. He almost lost 8 years ago. He barely won, and that was in a multi-candidate race, not the two-party two-candidate election that we have this year. He is incredibly unpopular in large stretches of Brooklyn for various reasons. One is for shielding people that were committing sex crimes against children in Orthodox Jewish communities. Another sector is angry at him for going after unfairly innocent Black and Latino men, putting them in jail, covering up evidence so that they stayed in jail.
But he prosecuted Howard Beach. He's still popular.
That was
That was his greatest claim to
more than
fame,
25 years ago, and he's been a politician since then. And look, he's done some amazing, innovative things. It's time to go. And I think you're going to hear more and more from those communities as they organize specifically on this race over the next month or so.
Well, I think it's a great race to watch. I think you're doing a great job with it. In New York, I see quite a bit of it, especially that I don't live in Brooklyn, but I see it on TV and different things going on there. I think the challenge there is how long any politician can stay in office for decades at this point and see where it goes. I think Abner Louima was a terrible thing that happened in New York. I think it's a tragedy. It was a tragedy for what went on there. I think as far as his endorsement goes, it got your guy some headlines. I hope he wrote you a check with all the money he had gotten for what had been done to him at that point. But beyond that, I don't think it really does anything in this race at this point.
Well, we will see. Coming up next, something that the three of you can give your takes on. Is New York better or worse than it was 12 years ago? Has Bloomberg helped or hurt the city? We are getting to that next. And in the meantime, join us in on the conversation. Head to Facebook and Twitter, and you know what to do. We'll be right back after this break.